in question, given let W be a closed. We observed at the end that closedness, without closedness it won't work. So, we said be a closed subspace of a Hilbert space. Okay. So, there are three things about the subspace, that it is a subspace and a closed thing. There are two hypotheses about this W, and there is a hypothesis about the parent space, that it is a Hilbert space. So, we will closely monitor where we are using all this hypothesis. Okay. Then, for any x in W, an H can we find a W x in W such that this minimizes the distance and if so, is it unique? This is the question that we raised last time. Okay. So, the picture is this: the big space Hilbert space is here, and there is a small subspace W, and there is a point x. We would like to approximate x from W by a vector Wx. So, the question is, does there exist Wx such that this distance is smaller than any other W distance? Okay, so that is the question, approximation question we raised last time. Given a closed subspace in a Hilbert space and any point in the Hilbert space, can we approximate it? So, let me make one simple observation. If x belongs to W, then there is nothing to prove, because x is itself the best approximate. Okay. Then there is nothing to prove, since Wx equal to x is the unique answer. Okay. So, that is not the problem. So, the non-trivial case is when you are taking a vector outside this subspace. So, without loss of generality, let us assume x does not belong to W. Okay. So, that is the question. Now, what we do is the following. I will give two proofs again. One is using orthonormal sets, and the other one is using the parallelogram identity in Hilbert spaces. Let us look at both of them. But before I do something, let me make a few observations. Let me make it therefore 1. This is a general observation. Okay. The general observation is the following. Suppose you take any metric space, leave alone it need not be even a nonlinear space, it need not even be an inner product space, it need, as long as you have metric, it is okay. So, suppose you have a metric space and then you take a closed set, so K is a closed set in that metric space. So, this is the metric space X and I have a closed set K. Okay. I am trying to look at this. See, I have a closed subspace but when I talk about metric spaces, there is no question of linear subspaces. So, I have to only take a subset. So, I take a closed subset and I take a point x outside K, as I was saying, without loss of generality, take x outside K. Then let us see what we really want to do. What I do is take a point W, let us say K in K. So, let K belong to K. Then look at this distance. Then look at distance between K and X, whichever, since it is symmetric, it does not matter, xk, distance between x and k. That is a number, and that number is strictly positive number, because x is outside and k is inside. The distance is 0 only if the two elements are the same, but x and k cannot be same, because k is in W and k and x is outside k. So, d of xk is greater than 0. So, now suppose I plot that number on the real line, it will be 0, somewhere here will be dxk. Okay. Now, this is like a shadow. See, the x is used to cast a shadow of this point on the real line. So, I use the x, calculate the distance from k, I get a number, and that point in the real line is taken as the shadow of the point k. Now, as the k moves around, as the k is varied around that set k, this point will keep, the shadow will keep moving around, but at no time the shadow will go to the left of 0. It will not even touch 0, always it is to the right of 0. Why? Because it is always the distance shadow, and the distance is a non-negative number, and each one of them is strictly positive. So, as k varies, over k, the real numbers dxk lie to the right of 0. Now, therefore, if I look at this, consider the set of all these numbers that you get, all the shadow points, consider all the shadow points, consider the set dxk as k varies over k. Consider all those shadow points, they are now all real numbers, positive real numbers, and this is a set of real numbers bounded below by 0, because nothing can go to the left, bounded below by 0. So, I take a point k and cast its shadow on this line, which is to the right of this, and as k moves around, this keeps moving around, but at no time it can cross the 0. So, I have a set of real numbers which are all strictly positive, so bounded below by 0. Is that okay? Now, when I have a set of real numbers which is bounded below, it must have a greatest lower bound. Every set of real numbers which is bounded below has a greatest lower bound. Hence, this set, what shall I call this set? I will call it the shadow, okay, kx. So, this is the shadow of k created by x. Hence, this set kx of real numbers has a greatest lower bound, which we call as infimum. The language we use is the infimum. That is, take the set and take the minimum or the infimum as k varies over k. Okay. This infimum is called the distance between the point x and the set k. This least upper bound is called the distance between x and the set k, and is denoted by dxk. Okay. The distance between the point x and the set k is, calculate all the possible distances and look at the lowest bound that you can get, okay, the lowest level to which you can go. And therefore, how is it defined? So, this is by definition, this is the greatest lower bound of all these numbers dxk as k varies over k. This is the definition of the distance between the set x and k. Pardon me? Greatest lower bound. Oh, I am sorry, this is greatest lower bound. Thank you. So, the greatest lower bound is called the, not the least upper bound, no. The greatest lower bound is called the distance between the point and the set. Okay. Now, we will make few more observations about this. Nice to, I should, this is all recollection of what we do in metric spaces, and then we will come to this question on Hilbert space. Okay. Now, whenever you have a greatest lower bound, what does that mean? Either the greatest lower bound is actually minimum, it is attained, or you will be able to approach it through a sequence. Now, it has to be attained, then that point will have to be on that set itself, because it is a closed set. So, but anyway, that really does not matter. So, what we have here is, let me now point out, I want how, I lost the question, does not matter. So, here is the picture again, here is 0 and all the dxk's are here. Okay. 0 is a this, and this is the, say, the least of, it may be 0 also, this is the, we will see whatever it is, this is the greatest lower bound, which I will call it a, okay, this is dxk, that number, the greatest lower bound. Now, what does this mean? That means all the numbers dxk will be hanging around at this point or to the right of that point, none of them will go to the left. That is what is meant by saying it is the greatest lower bound. Not only that, suppose now I go a little bit to the right of it, let us say this is dxk plus 1, what can I say? This cannot be a lower bound, because if this were a lower bound, this cannot be greatest lower bound. This cannot be lower bound means somebody goes to his left, somebody is going to cross him. That means there must be an element of k for which dxk is less than dxk plus 1. So, clearly dxk plus 1 cannot be a GLB. Therefore, there exists a k1 in k such that dx little k must be less than this dxk plus 1. Is that clear? Because if nobody goes to the left of him, then he will be a better lower bound than dxk. We say dxk is the greatest lower bound. Nobody can greater than him can be a lower bound. Right. Next, what I do is I look at dxk plus half. Can that be a lower bound? That still cannot be a lower bound, because if that were a lower bound, then dxk would not have become the greatest lower bound. So dxk plus 1 half cannot also be a lower bound. So similarly, dxk plus half is not a lower bound, is not lower bound, I should say lower bound. Therefore, there exists a k2 in k such that dxk2 is less than dxk plus half. Now, what do you see? Then I can look at dxk plus 1 by 3, 1 by 4, 1 by, so for any n there is a element k such that it will be less than dxk plus 1 by n. So similar, thus, okay. Thus for every n, every positive integer n, there exists a kn in k such that dxk kn is less than dxk plus 1 by n. So what does that tell about the kns? dxk, what happens to dxkn then as n tends to infinity? Therefore, limit n tending to infinity, this is 0 less than or equal to this, limit of course this is a lower bound. So dxk is less than or equal to this, because this is GLB, it is a lower bound, and we have found this. So what happens is n goes to infinity, that goes to dxk, this is also dxk, this case sandwich. Therefore, dxk kn converges to dxk. This is the meaning of GLB, very in for soup. So if something is an in, there will be a sequence which will converge to it. Okay. So conclusion, there exists a kn in k such that dxkn converges to dxk. This is what I wanted to have. There exists a kn such that dxkn converges to dxk. So therefore, if you take a closed set in any matrix, in fact I did not even close, I don't even need closed, but that is for future purposes, and then a point outside, if dx, if you take the minimum distance, the infimum of all the distances, there will be a sequence kn which will converge such that the distance between x and kn will converge to that infimum value. Okay, so let us make, so what is the final lemma therefore? Lemma, if k is any set, any closed set, does not matter, in xd x belonging to x, then it's not, I am interested only in k, then there exists kn in k such that dxkn tends to dxk. What was dxk? By definition is the infimum of k belonging to k of dxk. Infimum or GLB, if you do not like the word infimum, you can use GLB. Okay, so that is one point which we will keep in mind. Okay. Probably I will now throw, now that I have gone to digressions, I will put all that is required in one place. So remember therefore that whenever you have something is infimum, there is always a sequence which will reach that infimum. That is the main idea. Whenever something is a supremum, there is always a sequence that will attain the, reach the supremum, through a sequence you will attain. That is what I wanted to point out. Okay. The next thing that I want to observe, This was observation number 2. All these we will use shortly. Observation 3. Suppose you have a non-linear space. I will straight go to non-linear space. Suppose you have a non-linear space, and if it is complete, what is a complete non-linear space? Okay, even let me take a metric space first. If you have a metric space and if it is complete, what is complete? Remember, we are going to deal with Hilbert spaces, which is a complete metric space. It's a little bit more. The metric comes from a norm, and that norm itself comes from an inner product in a Hilbert space. So, it's suppose I have a complete metric space, then if you take any closed set take a closed set in XD. Now, this K, the same metric works here also. Then KD is a metric space, and this closeness makes it a complete metric space. So, any closed subspace of a complete metric space will be a complete metric space by itself. Okay. Then the fact that XD is complete and K is closed force KD to be a complete metric space. Okay, so what it means is a closed subspace of a complete metric space, that is a closed subspace of a complete metric space is a complete metric, is complete, is a complete metric space. It is a smaller world living in a bigger world, that is all. A smaller complete metric space living in a bigger complete metric space, both having the same metric. Only thing is, in this case the metric is restricted to the set K, there the metric D is restricted to the whole set X. Exactly analogous. Once you have something for a metric space, similar thing will be for non-linear space, because every non-linear space is a metric space. So, if you have a complete non-linear space, what is a complete non-linear space? It's called a Banach space. So, suppose you have a complete non-linear space, that is a Banach space, then any closed set K in X will be such that K with that norm restricted to it is a Banach space. The closed subspace of a Banach space is a Banach space. A closed subspace. Now, of course, I have to take a closed subspace, because for a non-linear Banach spaces I need a linear structure also. So, I have to have a subspace. I have a subspace, so already a vector space, that norm works here also, and it is a closed subspace, and therefore, when if that is complete, this will also be complete. So, a closed subspace of a Banach space is a Banach space. Analogously, a closed subspace of a Hilbert space is a Hilbert space. The same inner product being used. Okay. So, this is a closed subspace of a Hilbert space is a Hilbert space. Of course, underlying inner product being the same. Okay, so these are some of the observations which I will be using in going back to in our questions. Okay, so now let us recall the question again. Go back to our question. What is that? W is a closed subspace of a Hilbert space H. Remember, we said that without loss of generality I can assume X does not belong to W. For X belong to H, for any X belong to H, does there exist Wx belonging to W such that norm X minus Wx is less than or equal to X minus W for every W and W? That is somebody who minimizes the error, and if so, is this unique? Okay, so that is the first question. So, what I will do is first proof I will give using the parallelogram law, because it gives a good generalization. We will see where exactly all these hypotheses are being used. Okay. Can we prove this? Using parallelogram law. We will see how to use it, where it comes into the picture. Okay. So, my picture is this again. Here is W, here is the whole space, and there is a point X outside that. We are looking for a Wx inside. Now, I will go immediately to that. In place of K, I will take W. So, I will define dxW is the distance between X and W. What is that? That is infimum, the distance between X and any vector, and go on varying W and see what it is. Now, what is it that you are actually asking? That the infimum is exactly attained. So, it is a minimum. The lower bound, the lowest bound is there. The greatest lower bound is indeed actually attained by some vector Wx. That is what really we are trying to show. Okay. So, this is what I will, for short I will write this from now on as D, instead of writing every time dxW, etc. Okay. Now, the first thing that I will observe is that whenever you have such an infimum, there is always a sequence of points such that their distances approach that infimum. So, by our observation, whatever number is, there exists instead of Kn now Wn belonging to W such that dxWn converges to D, dxW, but the dxW I am going to denote by D. Okay. So, here dxkn converts to dxk, place of k is taken over by W. So, dxWn converges to dxW, which I denote by D. Okay. Now, you see, the idea is now very simple. Suppose I say that Wn, where are the Wn's? The Wn's are all here. Suppose I say Wn converges, right? If it converges, it should converge to some limit, and because it is a Hilbert, because this is a closed set, that limit must also be there. Suppose W naught is a limit, then as n goes to infinity, dxWn will convert to dxW naught, and that will say dxW naught must be equal to D, and then I have got the point at which I attained the minimum error. So, the main thing required is that to show that the Wn converges. So, that is the idea. Suppose, okay, suppose we show Wn converges in the Hilbert space H. converges to a W in H. Suppose we show that. We will come back to that. What do we get out of it? Then we get let me call it as, this is what we will have star. Then get dx, the distance is a continuous function, so dx wn will converge to dx w. Let me not call it as w, let me call it as a w naught, dx w naught. But by star dx wn converges to d. Therefore, d must be equal to dx w. Okay, therefore, d is equal to, there is some problem, is it okay? So, I think the battery is, no, battery is down. Huh? Lose contact somewhere. Okay. So, what we got? Therefore, we have d is equal to dx w naught. But what is d? It is the infimum of dx w, w belonging to w. That is the definition, distance between x and k. What does that mean? This fellow is smaller than any other distance. How is the distance coming now? The distance is from a norm. So, all that this says is, let me remember that in a Hilbert space, d of x y or u v is equal to norm of u minus v. So, all that this says is that this implies norm of x minus w naught is equal to infimum of w belonging to w, norm of x minus w, which implies norm of x minus w naught is less than or equal to norm of x minus w for every w in w. And that is precisely what we are looking for. We want a w naught which minimizes the distance. So, can take, therefore, can take w naught as our wx. Okay. Right. So, therefore, if we show this, we are done. If we show that the xn's converge, the wn's converge, then we are done, because the moment it converges to something, that something is in w and that something minimizes the distance, and our question has been answered. So, the main problem therefore is to show that these wn's converge, right. But when you are in a Hilbert space, to show something converge, it is enough if you show it is a Cauchy sequence, because that is where you are going to use the Hilbert space. If you show that it is a Cauchy sequence, and in a Hilbert space any Cauchy sequence will converge, so that is that bit. So, therefore, therefore, first of all, it is enough to prove 1. Hence, it is enough to prove 1. So, now we go to prove 1. So, proof of 1. Since Wn is a sequence in a Hilbert space, it is enough to show that Wn is a Cauchy sequence. So now it's enough to prove 2. Finally, we will reduce it to something which is manageable. So therefore, enough to prove 2. So proof of 2. Now what is meant by to show that it is a Cauchy sequence? We must show that if you take the difference Wn minus Wm, as the n and m go to infinity, that flies off to 0. So therefore, to show that, so enough to show that Wn minus Wm tends to 0 as n and m tend to infinity. So that's what we are finally going to prove. Okay. So therefore, that's what is necessary. So to proof of 3. So therefore, we have used already the Hilbert space part of the hypothesis. Okay, in this proof, we have used the Hilbert space hypothesis that it's enough to show it's a Cauchy sequence, any Cauchy sequence in the Hilbert space will converge. That is the first place we are using the hypothesis that, and we also use the fact that what is this? Okay, did I write that W is closed? Okay, by start. Okay, I didn't write. W not belongs to W because W is closed. Okay, so that closed hypothesis also I have used. The fact that W naught lies inside capital W. Okay, so I have used Hilbert space. I have used closeness. There is only that the fact that W is a subspace I have not yet used. Okay, so that's the only thing hypothesis that has not shown up. That W is a closed thing is used, that H is a Hilbert space is used, and I have not yet used the fact that W is a subspace. Okay, we will see where we use it. So now we are going to prove this. So we want to estimate Wn minus Wm. So let's write the square. It's enough if we show that this goes to 0. Okay. Now this is equal to Wn minus x minus Wm minus x squared. Okay. I just added and subtracted an x, that's all, nothing. So what I will do is I will call this as u and call this as v. So Wn minus x is u, Wm minus x is v. Now use parallelogram law for this u and v, a parallelogram whose sides are u and v. So by parallel, so let me call this as 1. By parallelogram law, norm of u plus v squared plus norm of u minus v squared is twice norm of u squared plus norm of v squared, right? Now what is u plus v? Wn plus Wm minus 2x, that is what u plus v is. U minus v is precisely this minus this was this. Wn minus Wm squared is equal to twice of Wn minus x squared norm plus Wm minus x squared norm. Okay, so I erase this over. Now what is it? I want to estimate this. For the convergence of this, I want to estimate this. So I will take it on, keep it on one side and pull the other fellows on the other side. Twice norm of Wn minus x squared plus norm of Wm minus y squared, I am sorry, x squared minus Wn plus Wm minus 2x squared. Now I am going to do, watch carefully, this is going to be equal to, see, I know how to handle this. What happens to this? Wn minus x is this, that will converge to d. Wm minus x also will converge to d. So, as n and m go to infinity, that will go to 4d squared. Okay. So, that is not the problem. So, I am going to look at the other fellow. So, this is norm Wn minus x squared plus norm Wm minus x squared minus, here I will pull out a 2 with a square okay. I will just pull out the 2 squared will come out and then a Wn plus Wm by 2 because I am dividing by 2. Wn plus Wm does not have the 2. What can you say about this? Here is the space W. Where is Wn? Inside W. Where is Wm? Inside W. Where will be Wn plus Wm? Inside W because it is a subspace. If Wn plus Wm is inside W, half of that will also be in W. So, this will be in W because W is a subspace. That's the place where the subspace comes. And therefore, I will call it some vector as some W hat is equal to some W hat which belongs to W. So, this is equal to twice norm Wn minus x squared plus Wm minus x squared minus 4 times norm W hat minus x squared. What can I say about that? So, W is here, x is here. What can W hat? What can you say about the distance between x and W hat? What is the minimum distance? Minimum distance is d. So, this distance will be at least d. So, norm W hat minus x, norm W hat minus x is greater than or equal to the greatest lower bound of norm x minus W, which is equal to d. So, therefore, minus of that will be less than or equal to minus 4d square, right. That is greater than or equal to d squared. 4 times that is greater than or equal to 4 times d squared. So, minus 4 times that will be less than or equal to minus 4 times d squared. So, now what happens to this as n and m go to infinity? This goes to d squared, this goes to d squared, this is 4d squared minus 4d squared and therefore, it goes to 0. So, this thing goes to 0 as Nm tend to infinity and that is done. Therefore, Wn is a Cauchy sequence and we are done. Okay. So, one part is done, that there is a point where the lowest distance is attained, which is closest, least error is attained. There is a point in W which gives the least error. We have used every one of the hypotheses: subspace, closed subspace, Hilbert space. Is that clear? I will come back to this a little shortly, but now look at what exactly we used for subspace. All we used was, if Wn is in W, Wm is in W, half Wn plus half Wm is in W. This is true in any convex set. In a convex set, if 2 points are there, any convex combination of them is there. So, half Wn plus half Wm is a convex combination of Wn plus Wm. So, we really did not need the full power of subspace. All we needed was that it be every subspace is a convex set, but for this purpose I have not used the full linear subspace structure, all I have used the convexity of the space. So, this we get. So, note, we used the fact that W is a subspace to conclude that when Wm belong to W, so does Wn plus Wm. This conclusion can be got even with the assumption, with the hypothesis that W is a convex set. So, therefore, what have we got so far? So, we have shown that there is a point which gives us the least error. So, conclusion, if W is a closed subspace or a closed convex set, closed convex set in a Hilbert space H, then for every x in H there exists a Wx in W such that it approximates with least error. Norm x minus Wx is less than to norm x minus W for every W in W. So, that was our question. Does there exist a Wx which minimizes the error? And we have shown there exists a Wx which minimizes the error. But then our question was, and if so, is it unique? Is there only one Wx which will have this property, or there may be many points which are giving the minimal error? So, we asked that question, if it exists, is it unique? So, the next question is this Wx unique? And the proof of uniqueness is always same. If there are two things, show that they are same. If Wx and Wx prime do this, show that Wx must be equal to Wx prime, and showing two things are equal is to show that the difference is 0. To show that the difference is 0 vector, it's enough if show the norm is 0. That is exactly what we are doing. Okay, suppose Wx, Wx prime are two such, that is x minus Wx, x minus Wx prime, both are less than or equal to norm x minus W for every W in W. Suppose both minimize the distance. Okay. Suppose you take the 4 points in a equilateral quadrilateral. So, you take a equilateral triangle, and with the same side you put it up one point at the center, join these points. Take only those 4 points, and then if you are trying to approximate the top point by the bottom set minimum distance, every one of the points gives the same distance. So, every one of the points minimizes the distance. So, therefore, there are many points. but then we are using subspaces, Hilbert spaces, all these structures that makes these things unique in this situation. Okay, so what should we, I think essentially it is the same type of calculation again. So what do we do is, we look at this Wx minus Wx prime squared. The calculations are exactly like Wn minus Wm calculations. Okay. So as in Wn minus Wm squared calculations. What did we get there? We got twice, this is less than or equal to twice norm Wn minus x. So now in place of n I have Wx, and in place of m I have Wx minus 4d squared. Same story. But this is less than or this is actually equal to d, this is actually equal to d squared, so that is less than or equal to 0. But this is greater than or equal to 0. So together that will give Wx equal to Wx. So therefore that point is unique. Okay. Same calculation as we did for Wn minus Wm. Wherever the Wn put Wx, wherever there was Wm put Wx prime, you get that result. And in that case we had to show that this goes to t, but now it is actually equal to d, both of them, okay, because that is the minimum distance. So we get Wx equal to Wx prime, so we can say there exists unique Wx. This is the final theorem. So okay, so let me now write the final theorem. If W is a closed subspace or convex, closed convex set in a Hilbert space H, then for every x in H there exists unique Wx in W such that norm x minus W is equal to the minimum distance. Now I can write this minimum distance of all this thing. Okay, that is the minimum error. It is attained. It is attained by one fellow and he is unique. There is only one fellow who attains this minimum distance of this distance. Now this is basically the beginnings of all the orthogonal projection theorems in Hilbert space. Okay. We will. I said I will give two proofs. I think one proof itself I have taken too much. I thought I am going to give two proofs today and do something else. Okay. But now let me just do. So this is the beginning of projections and other things which will come later. Let us look at a simple situation. Okay. Let us work with the subspace itself. Let us take our three-dimensional space. Okay. I think when I say simple, it must be really simple. Let us take the two-dimensional space. Okay. Now, what are the types of subspaces you can have? Either 0 dimensions, 1 dimension, or 2 dimension. If I take 2 dimension, I get the whole space. Everybody is approximated by himself then. If I take 0 dimension, there is everybody is approximated only by the 0 vector. So the thing is, you take non-trivial cases, 1 dimensional. What are 1 dimensional subspaces? Lines through the origin. So let us take any line. So that is my W. And it is a closed subspace, it is a line. A sequence of that which is Cauchy will always converge because a Cauchy sequence of real numbers, it will converge. So that is a closed subspace. Now take a point which is not there. How do I find? I know that there is a point here which is closest to it. That is what all our results in Hilbert spaces we did. This is the general. How do I find the closest point to that in this subspace? If I vary these points and go on calculating the distances, I will get different distances. When do I get the minimum distance? When I get draw the ortho perpendicular from that point to that line, wherever that comes, that vector is suppose I take any vector there. So, this vector, the orthogonal projection of that onto that subspace, that is what is known as the orthogonal projection of it. Okay. Then, what do I know? This plus this is equal to this. Where is this vector? This vector is orthogonal to all the vectors in this space. So, what did we get? Given any closed subspace in this situation, any vector can be written as the sum of a vector which is in W and a vector which is perpendicular to all the vectors in W. So, this is the idea of orthogonal projection and orthogonal direct sum decomposition. Taking it to the level of Hilbert spaces is the general theorem of orthogonal direct sum decompositions. Okay. So, what is the idea here then? I have a subspace. Let me run first. What should be the theorem look like? Okay. So, I must have H a Hilbert space, W a closed subspace, X belonging to H. Okay. Then the role of this vector is played by the fact that this can be approximated by a vector from here with the least error. Then there exists a vector Yx or Wx belonging to W such that x minus Wx is equal to minimum of x minus W, W belonging to W. There is a unique vector. This is what the theorem we have proved now, right? That theorem now tells there is a corresponding version of this fellow. There is a point here which is closest to that point. Then take the difference. Then let, what is this vector? This vector is x minus Yx. Call it as some z. What happened to that vector? That was perpendicular to all the vectors in W. Then z is perpendicular to all vectors. Right? That is what we have not shown this. We want to have this. So, this is the question. Corresponding to our experience with Pythagoras theorem and other things, we want to now generalize Pythagoras theorem, generalize projection, generalize orthogonal projection, generalize the law of decomposition of forces. Okay? Essentially, that's how a force is decomposed, one in the x direction and one in the y direction. So, eventually all that classical mechanics, classical algebra we want to do in general Hilbert spaces. If we show that this is true, then we have got all these orthogonal things that we do in the normal thing, that if you give me any vector, it can be split into two parts. One is Yx, the other one is, this is in W, the other one is Z, which is perpendicular to W, and that is exactly the decomposition that we are looking for. So, the next time I will start with this question: will this be really perpendicular in the general situation? I think it is exactly 4 o'clock, so I should stop here.